You know where you at. You are tuning in to another episode of Thoughts of Dizzy. Welcome to the Epic Lounge Network. Welcome to the show Thoughts of Dizzy. I definitely wanted to cover a topic. Normally, I would want to have notes, but I think I could really kick this freestyle off pretty easy. I might do longer videos on the subject. For those that follow me from the Notion podcast, which is something that I'm very proud of. I'm proud of my co-hosts and everything like that. For those that follow me over here to the Epic Lounge Network, they're all in conjunction. They're all connected. You'll see how it works in the future. But you guys that have been tuning in to the Notion podcast know I had Thoughts of Dizzy and I had Cleaning Up the Culture. So basically, I wanted to resume cleaning up the culture on a subject that I think has been hitting me more the more that I think about it, as far as in life and experiences, and the disconnect between generations. And it's an ongoing conversation. I think it'll always be a conversation, but it's so necessary. I think it's a great reminder between both sides on where we come from and where we've been, where we're at and where we're going. Whether you're old, young, or even younger, I just think it could, as long as it's healthy, I think it's always room to have a really good conversation about this. But the thing that I think is speaking to me right now is the boomer generation, and I would say a little bit of Gen X, not too much, and the millennials, millennial X's and millennial Y's. Now, the reason why this speaks to me is because, unfortunately, this is one of the unfortunate things about being able to have access to an abundance of information through social media. It's a constant conversation of what's really working and what's not between different traditions, which also is going to bring up the conversation with generations. And you talk to any generation, they're going to say they're the better generation. I've heard a few people in generations younger than me saying they hate their generation, but I think it sounds like, as far as in the majority, that they would feel how we all feel about our generations. My generation was the best. My childhood was the best, and things ain't like it used to be. But specifically for Black people, I think this is a conversation that needs to be consistent until there's better understandings on how to communicate with each other. Specifically, I'll touch up more on boomers versus younger generations like millennials. When I think about the boomers, what I think about the most is their strength. Sometimes their strength is hardened. It's from being hardened. Their parents were tough. They were raised tough. They want to make sure their children is tough. That's what's going to help them sleep at night once everybody leaves the nest, right? But when I think about that generation, I think about the fact that they were exposed to first world issues, in a sense. They were exposed to a world that is, I would say, maybe post industrial revolution, if you will. And they started to see the world shift in a way that is unfamiliar at a rapid pace. But I also think they've seen more opportunities. They've seen more community. They've seen more unified families. They've seen results of things that they invested into, like hard work and following certain patterns that they were advised to do, actually working out. And I think that because of that, they have more confidence in systems. You know what I mean? So, for example, a system could mean getting good grades in school. A system could mean making sure you fit in. It could also mean going to school and then graduating college and, because of what you did, getting a decent paying job and starting a family, white picket fence and everything, right? They believed, and I still think to this day, they still believe in those systems. My mother personally is huge on education. She's done an immaculate job with, her career and, having a master's and, being a registered RN for my whole life. So I can only imagine for everybody else out there, what your parents did, the ones that went to school, and, you can tell whatever system that they lived off of, they still live by it. There's people out there that like, hey man, I gotta hustle. I'm saying I ain't do all that school stuff. And I think that even them, they're like, yo, it's about hard work. It's about dedication. Everybody is going to swear by their system. The reasoning for that is because of results. They've seen more positive results. Now, I'm not saying that the boomers didn't go through things. I think they went through a lot of things. I honestly don't think they deal with their trauma, which passed down to us, and us having a hard time dealing with our trauma and then trying not to pass any trauma down to our kids. So I just think that they have things that they could express more, but they were hardened. A lot of them had tough parents and were put in tough situations very young. With that being said, I think that dedication to the way things should be and the way they see things going can be challenging trying to reach younger generations. And what I mean by that is, if you're trying to explain to a younger generation what they're doing is bad, you need to be able to speak the language and say, listen, this is why this is going to, harm you later, or whatever the case is. But to, without, beating, I don't want to say, without beating around the bush, I'll give an example of right now, the workforce. And I think this is just something that needs to be addressed. And I might do these little short videos, whatever the case is, but I think that what needs to happen is you guys need to really listen and have an understanding of what it was for you and where things are now for the younger generation. And to be honest and say, you know what, we did not create a fail-safe or a bumper just in case what we teach our children doesn't pan out. That's the dangers of living by a system and believing that no matter what, this system will work. And so what has happened now is that now that you guys, because this is a message for the boomers, now that you guys seen the benefits, you guys have seen the benefits of putting in your hard work. You guys have now seen retirement, and some of you guys have retirement, some of you guys have pensions, some of you guys have 401k and IRAs, and some of y'all don't even know what that is, and that's understandable too. But now that you've reached the finish line, it's like, oh, okay, all right, now I'm just I'm gonna ride off into the sunset, and hopefully these young bucks can catch up and follow those things. There's only one problem, and you guys know these problems. The price of everything is astronomical, and the pay for hard work is laughable, right? And so that American dream of owning a home, or moving up in the corporate ladder, or just moving up in the company and the profession that you're in, those things are different. Nepotism is hardcore. And I mean, to give you an example of how hardcore it is right now, you see what the Los Angeles LeBrons just did. They just signed his son as the 55th pick. Like I said, I'm a Laker fan. I'm not trying to hate, but as far as in nepotism and support and all of those things, it is a very real thing. We're seeing it in front of our eyes. A lot of people disagree with a lot of decisions being made, whether it's in politics, whether it's in sports, why does this person get away with this? We know that people are tribal, and so they're going to stick to their own, whether that's their own group, their family, their circle of friends, their circle of extended family, people that have the same political views, people that are from the same environments. People are tribal, and with that comes nepotism. So you got to understand, in the corporate world, it's not. I'm not saying it was easy for you guys when you were young doing it, but what you have to understand, it seems like it's virtually impossible. I'm pretty sure some people right now can leave a comment or a like or whatever and explain probably a whole story about how bad the nepotism or favoritism is when it comes to trying to move up in the company, or just flat out biased. You ask any millennial, you'll see ones that are successful saying different, but you ask the millennials, and I guarantee you that a lot of them are going to say, yeah, I got screwed out of this, or I even got screwed out of an opportunity to work somewhere because of some BS. You see what I'm saying? So, that's just the income part of it. You can get on YouTube, you can get on TikTok, you can get on all of these platforms and watch the videos of millennials and a little bit older explaining to you why it's virtually impossible to buy a home. Now, I understand a lot of people say, all right, well, if you move here, if you move there, well, a lot of people got roots set in certain places. So New York and California, it is insane. Texas is starting to go up. Houses, I think in the 50s were like 50s or 40s were like 10 bands. 10 bands. Homes today are $250,000 and up. If somebody says they have an $800,000 house, they're like, oh, okay, well, and nobody's be like, $800,000, that's a lot of, that's not a lot of money for a house. That $800,000 is not a lot of money for a house, especially in California. That's not a lot of money. Now, to you guys, you're probably looking at the screen crazy, like, what is he talking about? But that is common here in California. I believe, I don't know about Seattle, but New York too. So income, I covered income and climbing the ladder. I covered being able to not live on the street, because we don't want to talk about rent. If you rent somewhere, apartments are crazy. You understand what I'm saying? So trying to pay for where you're going to live and trying to actually have somewhere to live, right? And then now, because we are adults now, a lot of us are experiencing things young that we shouldn't even have to think about until we're older. Health issues. Now, the finger can be pointed like, well, y'all was just feeding this. But listen, I don't think anybody knew any better. I don't think anybody in this country knew how bad certain things were for us until we got here. So we can't blame you guys. But like all of that at McDonald's, all of that fast food and all that stuff, when you didn't feel like cooking, is catching up with us. Now, we don't know what mock version human body you guys were or are, to where you guys are like dodging certain things that is just tearing us up. A lot of people are getting sick. A lot of people are losing their lives because of certain diseases that didn't even have a history in the family. There's health. When we thought about health, we thought about the food pyramid. I'm seeing videos and documentaries now saying the food pyramid was terrible for us. So now we have that. But then we also have the education system. Look where the education system is today versus when you guys put us in school, in kindergarten. Look at some of the conversations that the kids are having now. Look at the law in California that they have, where now your kid can go to school, change their pronouns, and change their name, and they don't even have to notify you. They don't even have to notify you. So you could be at the grocery store with your kid, and somebody calls your kid another name, and your kid responds to it, and that's how you find out. That's how much damage is being done in the school system today. So now our generation, now we got to monitor something that we shouldn't have ever had to monitor. Now we got to monitor what's going on with our kids as if we already don't have a job. We got to make sure we're doing our job correctly. We got to make sure the teachers doing their job correctly. And we got to make sure we're doing our job correctly as parents, just raising them. So that's already 2 jobs right there. You got a third one, watching people that's in charge of influencing your kid. So you have that. I'm sorry, you don't, but we have that. And then now we're having the mental health conversation, and the list goes on. But one of the most devastating things I think millennials talk about, and I think we can all collectively agree on it, even if they don't talk about it, is that it's almost like you have a map and you're looking for treasure, and you've spent all of these years, all of these different um, I forget what the word is, all of these different travels and journeys, right? And you finally get to the island. Nobody's ever found the island but you and your crew. And you start digging and you find the treasure and you open the treasure and there's really nothing in there of any value. All the hard work, all the studying, all that's how a lot of millennials feel because, the ones that did stay out of the way and did try to make the proper and best decisions with our lives, what ends up happening is it's like, well, okay, well, there's some of us out there like, yeah, I did everything. I have a job or I graduated out of college and I got married and I have kids and I own a house, but why do I not feel so fulfilled? Like, what is it? And so you guys may have been thinking about like, well, what is it with them? I don't know why they're so sensitive about this or why they complain about that. And well, because some people are looking at their peers that are the same age as them and wondering like, where are you getting all of these opportunities and things of that nature? How are you able to afford this or how are you able to function? And when they look over at their peers, people that maybe they know personally or work with, there's a big difference in their environment and in probably the culture that they come from if they're not of your culture. And what I'm trying to get to is, and that could be a whole nother video, but what I'm trying to get to is that when you have situations where you're questioning why the person that I taught is struggling when I've taught them this and I've encouraged that, and then that person is looking at their teacher like, well, why didn't you expose me or why didn't we do this or why didn't you do that? You got to start looking at the environment. You got to start looking at the dynamic because being black and when you look at your counterparts and you see the support that their parents give them, whether it's financial, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, being there for, the watch the kids and this, that, and the other, like those families are even closer. The work that you put in will reap certain benefits if you put in the work. So yeah, the grandparents probably do help the kids but you know what? They spend holidays together. They do everything together. It ain't I'm gonna take the kids over to my friends. And no, because it's like, nah, I think it's better. I think the family is better. The kids love the grandparents and the uncles and the cousins or whoever. The point that I'm making is family dynamic. Being there, and having each other's back and not feeling like everything is a task. If you feel like what you do for your family is a task, then you need to reevaluate what you value. Now, I understand that family gets taken advantage of, but it's your job to check that at the door and really be able to identify the difference between somebody taking advantage of you and really just needing you because you're probably the only one. But that family nucleus, that family dynamic, that what can I do for you mentality, and that goes both ways. That ain't just for boomers and millennials and Gen Z. Like, that's everybody. Like, always being of service. But what happens is in our culture, we don't want to feel like we're being taken advantage of, and we don't want to give a person the satisfaction of feeling like they're taking advantage of us. So we won't operate in a form of servitude. Or if we do operate in that, we're operating in a transaction mindset. It's transactional. It's like, well, if I do this 31 times, they got to at least do this for me 5 times. Instead of just being genuine and say, I just want to be there. I know what that feels like. I've been there for a lot of people, even people I don't even talk to or deal with anymore. I've been there I don't have a close friend that I haven't really been there for. Now, that doesn't mean I ain't never made mistakes or never disappointed anybody, but anybody that I'm close to can give you a story about how I've helped them and been there for them. And that's serving. Some of us that do things like that for people, we get satisfied in knowing that we brought that joy and that excitement or that hope to them. I think those are better ego boosters than anything, celebrating something that you did that helped somebody else. We don't encourage that enough, but I definitely think that I definitely think that we could do a lot better. That right there can change the whole spin on what happens in our culture. Not completely fix it, but it would definitely make an impact. I got a sip on that one. Oh man, so I think that that is a huge thing, and I also think that the millennials, we got some work to do. But as far as that, it was heavy on my heart because it's just certain things that I see on social media, certain conversations I have with peers of mine that do have kids and do have a relationship with their parents and reflect on a lot of experiences. I think that stuff is important. I really do. So I'm gonna do more of this cleaning up the culture, but starting out with just listing certain things so that our elders have an understanding of where our mentality is. And I didn't even do a deep dive into those main pillars that I was saying, only because like this could turn into hours, and I'd rather break it up and send that message. But based off some of those things that I've said, take those pillars and have conversations. If you are a baby boomer, take those pillars and sit down with your kids, your millennial kids, or your Gen X kids, and say, hey, listen, I was listening to this person and I want to know, what do you think about this, and this, and what kind of impact it would have had on your life, or whatever the case, to see what they say. And vice versa for the millennials. Like take those points that I was making and bring it to your parents. I think it's just a great, healthy dialogue. If you're not coming in malicious or coming in on the defense, you're just coming in with wanting to know. Bring these to your parents or bring these to your kids and see where the conversation goes. You might be surprised, or maybe you're not surprised, and because you expect all of the answers, because maybe you guys were in sync or you just know each other. But share that with each other, and it could be really any generation. It could, as long as the kid is old enough to understand, and the parent is old enough and to mature enough. I'm sorry, to actually engage in the conversation and not feel attacked. But bring this to them, and I'll probably do maybe a part 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, as I do a deep dive into those points that I made. Anyways, thank you for tuning in to Thoughts of Dizzy. Until next time, peace.
A handful of fame, they more mad cause my ego hit the town like a hero. In the black challenge, a Negro. High boy with a cold heart. Your boy classic Mozart. Stay behind.